Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Navis Nobilite. I am Captain Zelnick, and today we are going to continue BFG Masterclass with the Eldar Corsairs. Now, I've a lot of people believe that the Eldar Corsairs are among the most competitive lists in the game. They are certainly one of the most deadly and difficult to fight. But I am actually going to posit to all of you that the Eldar Corsairs and most Eldar, with the exception of the Dark Eldar, in general are actually not as competitive as you think. And it's not because they can't compete at the highest levels. They absolutely can. But the level of skill required and the level of luck required makes them not necessarily the easiest to master. In fact, I would say the Eldar are one of the most difficult fleets to master in the game. And, this is not a bad thing. I love a high skill required list, but you can do, you can have one day where you are just wrecking face all over the board, left and right. You could be winning day in, day out, and then suddenly you will just find yourself slapped over and over and over again because the sun was in the wrong place. The asteroid field was too far away. The planet gave the enemy a turn that I wasn't expecting. And suddenly your entire game falls apart like a weeping deck of cards. So playing Eldar Corsairs in a competitive sense requires the Eldar Corsair player to be not just skilled in the use of Corsair Eldar, he has to be skilled in the use of every other fleet in the game, because he has to be able to form unique strategies to defeat every other fleet in the game. There is simply so few choices you have for a broad combat doctrine that it just doesn't work out. You have to know how everyone fights. So if you go to a tournament setting and you put your ships down and you see across the board, you are encountering, I don't know, Tau. You have a different tactical doctrine for Tau than you would if you went against Orcs or Necrons or other Eldar or Imperial Navy or Chaos. And you have to know how to win against each one. Every other fleet in the game, effectively, has basically a doctrine that works for all comers. Eldar, none of the Eldar have that, with the exception, again, of the Dark Eldar. So Craft World and Corsair, no, you have to know how your ships will react to a change of the enemy. Which means if you're a Corsair Eldar player and you want to be like, I want to take this to a tournament and I want to win, you best start playing all the other fleets to a master level before you truly become a master of the Corsair or Craft World Eldar. So let's get to it. Now recognize that this is obviously very much based upon my opinion, because I consider myself to be maybe somewhere close to the competitive level with Corsair Eldar. But it's so difficult to really, and I mean really, get good with them. Anyway, let's look at our options, because remember all of the conventions that we talked about in Imperial Navy, Chaos, and Orc about cheap commanders? Sorry, bro, we don't have that here. Not only that, your commanders don't come with rerolls, and they're ridiculously expensive. Pirate Prince, 100 points. Eldar Hero, 500 points. Your rerolls. Now, the Pirate Princess has some pretty cheap rerolls, which is nice, but the hero is even more expensive. Because we're not taking reserves from the craft world list, we're just going to not require the hero at this time. But instead, we're going to look at Mr. Pirate Prince as our fleet commander, and you don't have a choice to bring him, because remember, we're talking 1,500 points. So, moving on to the actual ships. So you notice that we don't have a lot of ships here. The Corsair Eldar fleet is big for Eldar, but it is filled with highly specialized scalpels. Each of them has a unique purpose, and none of them are cheap. So we're going to start with the battleship. Now, when it comes to high competition, the Voidstalker is probably going to be the first dead killy battleship that I'll say has a good purpose. I know I said in the Orcs, Gorbag's Revenge, the Death Dealer, and the Cruel Boy were good, and those are battleships, but the Voidstalk, those are cheap. You can't even really call them battleships. They're dirt cheap for what they are. The Voidstalker is the first full-throated, expensive battleship that we actually can go, yeah, this is kind of effective. And there's really only one reason for it. Well, two reasons. I'll give it credit for two. 45 centimeter weapons on Eldar, weapons on that. So 45 centimeter, strength 4, pulsar lance, the weapons battery. That makes a big difference. It really, really does, because you can stay out of the range of most things and pop off those shots and then hop back out of range or behind an asteroid field or a planet. So these things have been very effective in high competition games. They're just witheringly expensive, so you gotta know how to use them right. Also, reason two, they are a carrier. Carriers are sparse in this fleet, and having the benefit of those really good guns and your 45 centimeter weapons and the carrier, I mean, it's a good choice. It's just it just hurts that it's so expensive. It is nice that you're not restricted by taking the Voidstalker via cruisers. You don't have to take cruisers to take a Voidstalker. Now, in our cruiser domain, it's frustrating because they're very expensive for what they can do. Obviously, we need some carrier capacity because we simply cannot just ignore the ordnance phase, especially if we are encountering something along the lines of Tau or Orcs or Tyranids. We need to be able to have something to, at the very least, give our ship time to get their licks in before we start suffering attrition from bombers. So, because of that, we don't have a choice. The Eclipse is viable, even if it's very, very expensive. Now, the Shadow, I've always contended that the Shadow is a better ship than anyone gives it credit for. It is not a bad ship. Unfortunately, it does not really have a place in high competition because the escorts below are going to be doing most of the work. Because in high competition, we got to min-max and min-max hard. Now, the Aurora and the Solaris. Again, these are not bad ships. The Aurora is significantly better than the Solaris, but they're at least cheap. And that could mean a lot. The Aurora with its 2 pulsars and its strength and its torpedoes is better than the Solaris. But if you have a Solaris, I mean, even in high competition games, if you got it, take it just for the sake that it's a beautiful mini. But right, sorry, no, we can't do that. This is high competition. The Aurora is more viable. It's just too damn fragile. It's just such a fragile ship. So then we move into where the bread and butter is. Obviously, the bread and butter of this fleet are the escorts, and none of these are not viable. Some are more viable than others. So we're going to talk about right now from the bottom to the top, the Nightshade. If you're not taking a fuck ton of these things, you've got something wrong with you. The Nightshade is undercosted for what you get. It's a strength 2 Eldar torpedo and a strength 1 battery. Yeah, the battery ain't much, but remember, all batteries count as closing for the Eldar. So a strength 6 salvo from them, that's actually going to give you like four dice, maybe 5. You know, it's not a bad escort. It's actually a very good escort. And Eldar torpedoes are where the damage really comes from in this fleet. Now, the Hemlock is a frustrating thing. It has a pulsar lance. Pulsar lances are good. However, whenever I use them, predictably, and it happens all the time, I always miss with the first wave. You got to get them locked on. That requires a lot of skill. Nightshades are a lot more forgiving. You don't need to lock on for a reload, right? To launch torpedoes, you're fine. Just to let them go and then move away and then reload. Hemlocks, really to get their true potential out, you need to be able to lock on, and that can be hard with an escort squadron because you may be sacrificing them to the enemy in order to get that definitive moment of fire off. Now, the Aconite and the Hellbore. These are very expensive escorts. The Aconite is something that if you're playing in the competitive zone and you're not taking a squad of 6 of these, you're making a mistake. Aconites are the most, hate to say this, the most effective escort in the Eldar arsenal just before the Nightshade. A Strength 5 Eldar weapons battery on a Escort is disgusting. One Aconite can cause no end of problems. 6 of them can erase ships every turn. And I'm not even talking about locking on. 6 of them gives you a Strength 30 Eldar battery. You're going to need a shovel to roll all those dice. They're expensive. Don't sacrifice them unless you absolutely have to. Now, the Hellbore. It is expensive, and you get what you pay for. That's the way I describe it. At this point, the Hellbore, in order to make up the points that you're spending, because you're spending a lot of them on it, a squad of 6 Hellbores is more expensive than the Voidstalker. You have to, when you get into range for fire, destroy a ship or 2 ships every round for it to truly be effective. Now, the good news is Hellbores are 100% capable of doing that with gusto. If the enemy is stupid enough to ignore your Hellbores, or you're good enough that they have no opportunity to shoot at them, you will start taking apart his fleet like a Maryland man takes apart a crab. The weapons batteries and the pulsar lances are more than capable of cracking a cruiser every round, and the strength 12 torpedo salvo that comes out of the damn thing will destroy another ship easily, or force them to brace for impact, or you'll just erase them from existence. But you have to be at the highest echelons of skill to use the Hellbore in this manner in a competitive setting, which is why most people rationally resort to the Aconite and the Nightshade, which I don't blame them for. They're easy to use, and they're easy. It's easy points to kill an enemy. So let's build a fleet here. Now, there are a couple of ways we can do this, because remember, we have to think about every potential eventuality that we will face and what we have to do to deal with it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a Voidstalker, and I'm going to give him his Pirate Prince to make him happy. And now I'm just going to fill the rest of this with escorts. How about Nightshades? Plus 240. That's tick Nightshade. That'll be 3 plus 330. That's 6 Aconites. We have 450 points left. Now, we could turn around and get an Eclipse. We could get ourselves that crucial leadership, that crucial 8 launch capacity 8. That will give us pretty much good dominance over the ordnance phase. Or we can take more escorts. We have basically a block of points here where we can take a good amount of stuff. So we could, if you want to be really spicy, take a squadron of Aconites, another set of 6, or you can take more Nightshades or a set of Hemlock. That puts you at 290. That right there allows you to take a Shadow. Congratulations, we're at 1,500 points exactly. That's a lot of Eldar escorts. It's a lot of killy, but again, very, very, very skill oriented. Practice a lot. Learn the board. Learn the enemy. Learn the sun. Because Eldar are tough to play in the competitive scene, because guess what? Everyone's expecting you. Everyone is expecting the Eldar player to show up. So, who are you good against as an Eldar player? Pretty much everyone in the game, if you know what you're doing. Who are you bad against? You'll have the most trouble with certain forms of the Imperial Navy, certain forms of Chaos, and certain forms of Orcs. So be prepared. Okay? I can't stress this enough. Be prepared! If you aren't prepared, you're going to lose a lot. If you are prepared and you have the mental, fortitude to be ready for what comes, and where the enemy is capable of killing you, you will do well. Okay? Now, I'm going to build one more list here real quick. We're going to shun the Voidstalker. We have the Eclipse Cruiser. We need at least something to take a Pirate Prince on. Okay, we're at 350. Now, let's just load it up. Nightshades. You know what? We're gonna be real spicy. Hellbores. Oh, I don't know. Akanites. Okay, we're now at 190 points. We can. There's a couple of options here. We could take, say, 190 points. We could take 3 more Akanites. That's an option. 65. That's 30. Can't take 2 more Hellbores. We could take. Let's see. More Nightshades. I think we need more Nightshades here. 2, 3, 4. So we have 4 Nightshades and then 1 reroll. Absolute metric fuck ton of escorts and 1 Eclipse. 100% capable, 100% viable. Just be careful of the incoming enemy ordnance, because you're going to have problems with it. All right, everybody. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all again in the next video.